class this afternoon. It's good to see you. Yes, it's very good to see you. Now I'm going to talk to you today about some foundational things in our health. Okay, so what do we find? There's so many people searching, looking for health. What do we go to? Where do we go to? There's so many different diets that are around. Do we go? Have you heard of the keto diet, the Atkins diet, low carb diet? You could go for all these diets. Maybe, what about fruitarian? What about raw food diet? What about vegan diet? There's all these different diets that are out there today. Which one is best? Well, I'm going to share with you what I believe I've found for myself, and I just wanted to share it with you. Natural health laws, are they a secret? Really, they're not, because there are 8 health principles which are foundational that you understand them. And I like to think them as health laws, and you remember them by spelling out the word New Start. Nutrition, exercise, water, sunshine, temperance, air, rest, and trust in God. Now, these are 8 laws of health. I believe you can't do without any of them. They are all intermingle. You can't just take one and say, oh, look, I will do 7, or I will do 6, or I don't like this one, I don't like that one. They are laws of health. Now, what I'm planning to do is share them with you today because, as I said, they are foundational. Once you understand this, you can go into other areas, which I still have lots more that I can share with you going on in continuing months. But this particular one is on New Start, the principles, the 8 laws of health. Now, I actually like a lot longer time to actually share this with people. So I'm going to condense it a little bit, and I'm sad that I have to condense it somewhat, but I'm still going to pick the important points that you need to understand and you need to know. The first one is nutrition. Okay, we're going to look at nutrition. Now, what do we need to eat? I'm going to talk to you today about a whole food, plant-based diet. Now, you might say, okay, well, it is really a vegan diet, but did you know that I can be a vegan and I can still have donuts? Technically. So I could be a vegan and I can be quite unhealthy. So I believe, and it's not me, I mean, you've probably heard it yourself, there's a lot of people who are talking about the whole food plant-based diet. And I think that encompasses it a little bit more because it teaches you that you're going to have whole food. You're not going to have refined food. And that's where more so, it's more accurate. But I don't get hung up on a name. If somebody said to me, what am I, a vegan? I'd say yes, okay? So I'm a vegan vegetarian. But I really like to look at it more that I actually believe in a whole food plant-based diet. And I believe it's God's designer diet because it's the diet that God gave Adam and Eve when he created them. Nuts, fruits, grains, seeds, and herbs. That's the original diet that was given in the Garden of Eden. But this is what most people are eating. You look at it. And, if I was honest, I would say most of all of those things that I've eaten, except I've never been a coffee drinker ever, but all those other things, this is, and a Coca-Cola, no way. I can still remember when I was a young teenager, and I can remember Coca-Cola coming in when I was a young teenager, and I can remember having a mouthful of it, and I said, oh, that tastes disgusting. Who would drink that? And that's where I left it. I had a mouthful, and that was it. So, but all the rest. But you can see this is what we've done, and this is why our health is suffering. When we choose what we put into our bodies, it's very important to choose the correct fuel. What do we put into our bodies? You know, and it's interesting because most people take more care of the petrol and the fuel that they put into their car than the fuel that they put into their body. If you have a car and your manual's told that you have to run it on diesel, you don't run it on petrol, or vice versa. You're very particular. You're very particular to get it, the oil's changed when it's due. You know, we're very particular, but what we are not is particular about what we're putting into our bodies. So, our body's requirements. We have basically, there are 5 requirements, and water makes it 6. Proteins, carbohydrates, fats, vitamins, and minerals. That's all we need if we want to be healthy. Now, obviously, if we're trying to gain it through our nutrition, we've got to have a balance through all of these particular headings. Now, proteins. Let's look at that for a moment. I believe most people eat far too much protein. We don't need as much protein as we're eating, but yet protein is needed for growth and maintenance, plus lots of other things. You can see there and you can read all the different things we need protein for. So we need to have protein in our diet. I know that. So where do I get my protein from? Well, as it says here, I get it from legumes such as nuts, beans, lentils, dried peas, tofu, all those things, from my nuts and my seeds. If you get your protein from animal protein, you will find that because it's very rich in purines, it actually leads to uric acid formation, and it puts a stress on your kidneys. It puts a stress on everything, and your body can become very acid. That is animal protein, but plant protein doesn't do that. Animal protein is also shown to cause cancer. Now, I don't know if anybody here heard of the China study. A few of you have heard of it. The China study is a study, and I came across this book probably, I think it was about 14, 15 years ago. I came across this study and this book, and I loved it. I read it and I thought, absolutely incredible, because I became a vegetarian probably about 30 years ago. But I came across this study, this book by Dr. Colin Campbell, who was one of the top cancer researchers in the world. He's an American. And he was set the task by the American government to find out what causes cancer. He found it, and guess what? They wouldn't have anything to do with his findings. So he put out this book. And he found out that chemicals, viruses, and toxins plant cancer seeds in your body, but it is animal protein that causes it to grow and get out of control. Now, I've actually found all this so interesting. When this came out, I went online and I found out that Dr. Colin Campbell did a course from Cornell University in America, because he was a professor from Cornell University. So what I did is I got online and I did an online course through his university on the China study, and I found so much more information about it. So I've actually got a whole talk on this, and I'm not going to get off track here of what's in the China study and what it's all about, but basically it's very interesting. And I'd like to share that with you next month. So I'm interested in sharing that one because there's lots and lots of information about it. And he tells you exactly why and the buts and the ifs. So that's something that's you're in store for. Now, okay, so that's protein. I'm talking about we need protein, and if you were on a diet and you just cut out meat out of your diet, you're going to have problems. You need to replace that meat with a good quality protein, and I'm talking about plant protein, which, as I said, with your beans and legumes and that. We need carbohydrates. They are an energy food, but we need complex carbohydrates. We do not need refined carbohydrates. They digest too quickly, they have depleted minerals and vitamins, and they have little fibre, and they raise your blood sugar. So where do we find them? Well, in your biscuits, in your cakes, your white breads, your potato crisps, your desserts, all of those things that probably we've all eaten, or I'm sure most of us have eaten. I have anyhow. I used to do it, but now I know you can make some of these things and you can make a healthy alternative. So don't think you've got to be forever without a biscuit or a cake or something. You can make healthy alternatives. Although I might admit that as I'm getting further in my diet, I've sort of left a lot of them behind. I can't be bothered. Maybe it's also age, I think, and I don't have kids to feed, so. Okay, but I'll talk to you about refined sugar. Refined sugar depletes your body of mineral reserves. Refined sugar does so much harm to our body. As a matter of fact, I think I've got a sheet at home that says 75 different harmful effects that refined sugar does to your body. It is not food. As a matter of fact, in one of my books it says, Sugar Blues by William Dufty, it says that refined sugar is not a food. It cannot be classified as food. It's actually a poison. So, what does it do? It actually raises, excess sugar overloads your liver. It expands, and excess is stored as abdominal fat. Leads to fatty liver. It raises your triglycerides in blood, lowers good cholesterol. Combine it with fat, and processed foods, and it leads to diabetes. So just watch your sugar intake. So I'm eating a diet. I don't have any refined sugar in my diet whatsoever. Yeah, I have some sweet things. I'll have honey or something like that, or I'll sweeten a lot of things with dried fruit. But we don't need refined sugar. Now, we need fats in our diet. We have to have fats, good quality fats. Yes, I get some from cold-pressed virgin olive oil. I do have some, but I don't have a lot, and I never cooked with cold-pressed virgin olive oil. The moment you heat oil, it changes its shape, because fats that heal have a different molecular structure than fats that kill. There's a book called Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill by Udo Erasmus, which I bought years ago. And he talks about the molecule shape is very important with oil. If the molecule shape is shaped in the cis form, which is shaped like a horseshoe, that's fine. Your body can handle it. But when food is manufactured and it's changed into a trans form, which is very harmful for your body, and your body cannot handle this. So how do we get a transform? Plus is by light, heat, and oxygen. Your oils are degenerated by light, heat, and oxygen. So heat. But they also do other things to your oils. They hydrogenate it. Now that is very harmful for you when you put hydrogen into oil. Okay, and it turns polyunsaturates into trans fats, which are solid at room temperature. And some of them are semi-solid, but they change their shapes. Now they are all harmful. They cause our body problems because our body treats them the same as saturated fat. You find them in margarine, biscuits, crackers, and potato crisps. Now, margarine is something that I learned when I first heard about it. I thought, oh no, don't take margarine away, because I used to have butter and I replaced it with margarine because this is what they told us years ago. But now I haven't had margarine for probably 30 plus years and I don't miss it. And believe me, I don't know who made the rule that says you've got to have margarine on your bread anyhow. I just use spread all the time. I make heaps and heaps of different spreads. So you can replace it, but margarine is really harmful for your body. Cells become stiff and do not allow normal function to occur. For example, viruses can invade cells, leading to cancer. They accumulate in the arteries, leading to heart disease. And look, the wrong fats affect your immune system, your enzyme activity, cell respiration, digestion, and energy levels. And plus more. As I said at the beginning, I can't even touch all of the things that how harmful they are, but I just wanted to give you an understanding that what we're eating, your oils are very important with your health. Now, your regular supermarket oil, which I'm talking about that bottle of what it is, canola oil or peanut oil or whatever oil it is. Anything that's processed and it is not cold pressed has a problem for your body. Because how do you get a sunflower and you have a bottle of oil? Yeah, sunflowers have got a bit of oil in, and corn, they've got oil in them. But how do they get it out? Well, they clean it, they press it, they degum it, they refine it, they bleach it, they deodorize it, they winterize it, and they hydrogenate it. And that is what you buy in your oils. Not all of it is hydrogenated, but your bottles of oil are all the rest of the processes. And it contains rancid polyunsaturated fatty acids, and the oils oxidize and turn into trans fats. The smell is so rancid that it needs to be deodorized by using bleach. And these are dangerous and carcinogenic. So, get away from those supermarket oils. They will harm your body. And anybody who's trying to recover from sickness, this absolutely a no-no, those supermarket oils. We need good fats. We get them by eating raw nuts. Now, yes, I have occasionally I'll have some roasted nuts, and if I do them, I'll often roast them myself. Yeah, look, there are rare occasions, but mostly we're eating raw nuts. We have probably breakfast in the morning. We have just a very few, probably about 7 nuts, not many. Just about 7 nuts and just a little handful of walnuts, which would probably be about 1 or 2 walnuts. Because we need fats in our diets. But the omega-3s is another thing. Your omega-3s you get in your linseeds and your chia. And some of the other things you can get it in some of the other seeds too. But linseed, now a lot of people talk about linseed and having your flaxseed. Flaxseed and linseed is the same thing. Okay, flax and linseeds are the same seeds. And people, they say, we'll go into the health food shop and buy a bottle of flaxseed oil, which is quite expensive. And you must be extremely fussy about it because it can very easily go rancid. If it's left out of the fridge for about 10 minutes, you've got a problem. And nobody seems to be telling the people that. Many years ago, we had a guest in our house who was doing some programs for us and some health talks for us, and he was a doctor. He was a doctor from America, and his specialty was in fats. And he told us and his wife was with him, and they both showed us how we utilize and get omega-3s in our body. Now, Peter and I have done this for all of these years. Every day I will get a little bit of linseed, and I use other seeds too. I also have a blend of sesame, sunflower, and pepitas. Pepitas are very good for men, for their prostate. You really need for your men to be giving them pepitas. So, have a little, probably for both of us combined, we use 1/4 cup for 2 of us combined. Okay, then I grind it fresh. Every day I'm going to use it, because if you break a nut or a seed, if you break the shell of it, it will oxidize within 20 minutes. Now, this doctor told us, he told me, and he says, every day have your flaxseed, just a couple of spoons over your breakfast or over your food every day, and you're going to get all the omega-3s you need. And so I've done that for all these years. and it just pays off. You get to the age and you think, well, thank you. I realise what it's done. Because if you buy, and don't get caught up into buying this LSA in the supermarkets, which is already ground up. It is not good for you because it's ground, and the moment you grind it up, goes rancid. Now, you can't see it. You can't see it being brown because it's a brown colour to start with. But you need to make sure that you have it fresh. Every time you have it fresh. So don't get caught into having it like buying it already up. Now, if you make up too much, what you would do, and what I've done on occasions, if I've made too much and nobody's eaten it because I've had people there, I will quickly deep freeze it. Pop it in the freezer. It will keep there and hold it if you have to, but I normally grind it fresh. You can grind it with your whatever. A lot of the bullets do it now. I've got a little coffee grinder. If you've got a Thermomix, it does it. All of these things. So you just got to grind it fresh every day you're going to use it. But there's something else I want to talk to you about: is oxidized cholesterol. When oxygen attacks the fatty acid chains, the process is called oxygenation. It is very damaging to the arteries. Produces irritation in artery walls and initiates a build-up of plaque. It greatly increases the risk of heart attack and stroke. Now, I've got this, and I've had this for years. This is a list which they say are the 4 most harmful foods for your arteries. They will build up plaque very quickly in your arteries. The first one is custard mix, which is any mix of combination of milk and sugar or milk, sugar and eggs. You get that in your custards, you get that in your ice creams, you get that in a lot of your cakes. Now, very harmful combination for your arteries. So if you know somebody who's got a build-up in your arteries, well, this is what's caused it. The second most harmful food they found was pancake mix, which is a combination of eggs and dried powdered milk. Now, it also is not only powdered eggs as well. A lot of the times they put powdered eggs in there. But what happens? It oxidizes. That's what happens to it. And the third one is Parmesan cheese, and the fourth one is lard. But who would have thought that combination of milk, sugar and eggs? Because how many people, we used to, as I was a kid, we grew up, you'd have a Wheat Bix for breakfast, sprinkle a bit of sugar over it and a bit of milk. And guess what? That's a combination that will build up plaque in your arteries. We need fibre. Where do we get our fibre from? Well, from your fresh fruit and your veggies but you get zero fibre from meat, dairy and eggs. Zero fibre. Matter of fact, it constipates. Did you know the transit time for meat eaters, meaning from the time you eat it until you go to the toilet, for meat eaters is 72 hours. The transit time for a vegetarian who is eating vegetables and like I'm promoting is 24 hours. Now that is why people are having so many bowel problems. Where do we get our vitamins from? Well, fresh fruit and veggies, as you can see. And I talked about this last time we had a program. Our minerals, remember to get your minerals from all foods that have different root systems. Don't just get vegetables only. Just look at herbs and all sorts of things like that. We need minerals. Now, the first thing you need to do is choose whole food, plant-based. Eat organic if possible, and I know that's not possible for everyone. Watch your food combinations at meals. Don't mix fruit and vegetables at the same meals, and especially if your digestion is a little bit weak. We usually have our vegetable meal for breakfast and our fruit meal for breakfast and our vegetable meal for lunch. Eat meals at the same time. Get yourself very regular. Your body likes regularity. Your digestive juices gets ready at the same time every day. So don't have your meals all over the day. Not too many food combinations at each meal, and cook your grains thoroughly. Now, this is something, have you ever heard about people saying that, there's problems with grains when you put grains in? Well, if you cook your grains thoroughly, you don't have those problems. So when I'm cooking I'll do a lot of cooking in my slow cooker, and let's say I want to cook rice, especially if I'm having some rice for breakfast, brown rice, I will usually put my brown rice on, and I'll put it in my slow cooker the night before with cold water, but I have my slow cooker timed to come on probably at about 3:30 in the morning, and I've just got a little kitchen timer that I plug the power socket into, and I get up and it's ready at 7 o'clock, and it's cooked for 3.5 hours or however long it is. So that's why it needs long cooking, and all your grains do. Even rolled oats need a lot of long cooking. These instant rolled oats, you have a problem with them. You need to cook them longer as well. Okay, that was the first one. That is on nutrition. Now we're going to get on exercise. Now you and I know how good exercise for you. I'm not going to go through all the things that exercise is good for. You really need to get into an exercise plan. Make sure that you're getting good quality exercise, because it's going to strengthen your body, it's going to keep you supple, it's going to do all sorts of things. So you need to get onto that. Your morning exercises is best. It's best because it increases the metabolism for the rest of the day. But if you can't do it then, just do it when you are able. Weight-bearing exercise is good. And we actually have a hill up near us, and we go up that hill and we try to get our heart rates up. Well, we do get our heart rates up. We don't just try. It does go up. When you get up to the top, it thumps because we push. Okay, walk briskly. And if you've got somebody you walk with, and I've got a husband who does not dawdle when he walks. He's a fast walker, and I've just had to learn to go along with him, keep up with him, and it keeps me a little bit. I have to walk faster. Come on, hurry up, he says, hurry up. And stretch before and after to avoid strains and increase flexibility. And I love stretching. I'm a real person who stretches a lot. And remember to earth. We touched on this, one of our other programs, where you really need to make sure you're going to touch your feet, your bare feet, on the ground, probably about 2 or 3 minutes a day. That's good for your health. Rubber sole shoes don't do the thing. That stops it. Now, another one is intermittent exercise. So when you warm up, and this is great if you can't get out, you can do this in your backyard. You could do it if have to do it running on the spot if you haven't got it. But if you've got a mini rebounder or one of those mini tramps, that's ideal. So you warm up for 3 minutes. You exercise hard and as fast as you can for 20 to 30 seconds. Then you recover for another 60 to 90 seconds, keeping moving, but you're much slower. Then you repeat the cycle. You go 20 or 30 seconds as fast as you can. And believe me, when you're finished after 7 times, you get off that and you will be puffed. It really exerts you. So what are the benefits of high intensity interval training? If you do it 3 times a week, they say you have a weight loss, you have fat loss, you have a reduction of your visceral fat, which is the fat around your organs in your abdomen. You have a reduction in waist circumference, you increase in fat-free mass, mainly muscle, increase fitness, increase power output, you reduce your carbohydrate metabolism, you increase fat metabolism. Okay, so we will go on now to water. Who likes water? Do you know, I think a lot more people are a lot more aware of it than years ago. Do you remember years ago, hardly anyone drank water? Most people are dehydrated. Quite a few years I came across this book called Your Body's Many Cries for Water by Dr. Batman Gehelich. however you pronounce his name. He's an Iranian, or he's passed away since then, but he was an Iranian doctor who was jailed by the Shah, Ayatollah Khomeini in the takeover when the Shah of Persia was kicked out in the 1970s. This man, Dr. Batman, they call him Dr. Batman, he was made a political prisoner in the Iranian prisons. When he was in there was fellow prisoners, and they said, well, look, this fellow says, I've got a stomach ulcer, what can I do? He didn't have anything to give them. He said, so go and have a drink of water. Everything everyone had wrong with him, he just says, go and have a drink of water. And you know something? Their symptoms relieved. He was amazed how many symptoms relieved because he just gave them and he told them to have drinks of water. And he's written this book and he says, you are not sick, you are thirsty. Don't treat thirst with medication. Your body's many cries for water. And he goes through all of these ailments, and I'll just touch on a few here. As I said, dyspeptic pain. People are not drinking enough water. Heartburn, rheumatoid arthritis, low back pain. For instance, in your back, we know we've got vertebrae and you've got discs in your back. Just imagine if you've got vertebrae and the discs fit in between each vertebrae. Now, if those discs are a little bit dehydrated, your vertebrae actually compress a little. So that actually gives you lower back pain. So if you plump up those discs in your back, they will come up and you will lessen your back pain. Look, can I also just tell you that I know it's not the only, and all of these things here, I know it's not the only thing that you have to drink water. I know there's a lot of other reasons why you might have all of these things. I understand that. But if you can eliminate that you are dehydrated as one, it might be the one that gives you the comfort to help you, that stops the pain with a lower back pain. Headaches. I was taught years and years ago that most headaches are just dehydration. High blood pressure, asthma and allergies. For instance, what happens when you are asthmatic? My mum was an asthmatic and she died having an asthma attack, and I know that when I look back in her life, she was very dehydrated. She hardly drank any water. But when you're asthmatic, your bronchioles will constrict. Why? Because we lose water vapour through our breath. So what your body is closing and constricting those bronchioles to stop you from losing the water vapour through your breath. Allergies, stress and depression, excess weight. So there's all of these things can be helped by drinking more water. And you can see there, balances nutrients and helps digestion. And there's loads of things that helps. Helps relieve constipation. Now, what happens if you want to replace it with drinking coffee and tea? Well, you've got another set of problems. Because coffee and tea have a different... Coffee is actually a diuretic. You need more liquid inside of you than you take in with your cup of coffee. You lose more. Okay, so you have a different set of problems with them. So I'm saying no to your coffee. And watch your soft drinks and your energy drinks. Don't replace it with them. Watch your fruit juices. Just learn to have water, pure water. And I know I drink filtered water. I wouldn't like to have to drink tap water because it tastes terrible. But how much do you need a day? Probably 2 litres. For my size and height, I need 2 litres a day. And your formula there is your height and weight in pounds, divide by 2, and then you divide that by 8. That gives you amount of water. But for my height and my size, I need about 8 to 9 glasses a day. And I find that easy to fit in. Very easy to fit in. Because I get up in the morning, the very first thing in the morning I do is I have 2 glasses of water. That breaks your fast, gives you right. So, I see a lot of people, they'll get up in the morning and they'll go for a walk and they'll take a bottle of water with them. Well, I don't worry about that. I drink first before I go, and I don't need to take a bottle of water with me. And watch drinking with your meals. If you're drinking with your meals, you actually dilute your digestive juices. And so it makes it harder for your body to digest that food. So if you get to a meal and you're very thirsty, that means you haven't drunk enough up to before your meal. So you need to, and don't drink, usually it's about a half an hour before your meal and 1.5 hours, because that's the time your body needs to digest your food. And it doesn't need extra water in there. So just don't become dehydrated. And as I said, use pure water, because the town water is got chlorine, bacteria, chemicals, lead, you look at them, aluminium, mercury, fluoride. We don't need that in our body. We need pure water. And I'm thankful that we've got a water purifier. And can I suggest that do your best to get a water purifier? If you can't, just use the best you can. Tank water is fine. I have no problems with tank water. But that water from our town supply tastes terrible, and you're getting a lot of things in there. And by the way, they say that, the fluoride in your town water, fluoride will actually calcify your pineal gland. So you've got to be careful of your drinking a lot of fluoride, a lot of water with fluoride in it. I talked to this in one of the classes. We can use water externally for fermentations, compresses, hot packs, ice, steam, and for pain relief. So we can use it as well. Okay, we'll keep going. Sunlight. What is sunlight good for? I found this book online. I was so thrilled because it's not published anymore. And it's a used copy, but I didn't mind. I got it and I was so happy with it. It is the most informative and carefully detailed book on sunlight and health ever to be published. And this Dr. Zane Keim goes into it and he gives you all the benefits of sunlight to your body. It improves alertness and mental ability. It decreases depression and fatigue. And by the way, too, if you're suffering depression, get out into the sunlight every day. And especially for women who have postnatal depression, critical that they get out into the sunlight early in the morning. So they get the sunlight into their eyes. Critical. That really helps people bring them out. And I know there's more reasons to it than just this, but this is one way you can help people. Increases oxygen content of the blood, decreases resting heartbeat, helps maintain our internal body clock. Major source of vitamin D and decreases certain types of cancer. Used for treating many diseases, TB infection, bronchial asthma. It lowers blood pressure and has a cholesterol lowering effect. That book told an experiment where they had a group of people. They took their cholesterol reading. Then this group of people went out and spent 2 hours outside in the sunshine. And did you know that the average reduction in cholesterol for that whole group was 13% reduction just in getting sunshine? Another experiment they did, they took some rabbits, they took half their blood volume out of all of the rabbits. This was an experiment. Half of the rabbits they put outside in the sunshine, all of them lived. The other half that they kept inside, out of the sunshine, all of them died. There is so much power in the sunlight that we are not. So I'm going to talk about this, what they tell you, stay out of the sunlight. Okay, I've got a little bit of a different view on that. Okay, sunlight lowers blood sugar and speeds up circulation, stimulates wound healing, and it penetrates deep. Have you ever held a torch in front of your hand and you can actually see through it? You can see the redness through it, and you realise that the light even from a torch, will penetrate. Can you imagine the sun penetrating? And if you've got problems, there is nothing wrong. A lot of the people, when they're going to health retreats, they have to learn to do sun baths, which means you have to expose as much as possible with as little as possible clothing on, and that's up to you how much, if you've got a backyard that you can shelter from all, that you're modest, that's fine. You can strip down to naked, to nothing. But whatever, you need to get out into the sunlight and expose your body to sunlight. It improves appetite, assimilation, elimination and digestion. Your chemicals and toxins are eliminated 10 to 10,000 times faster. 1,000 times faster, Stimulates our pineal gland. Now this is critical. Remember our pineal gland? Dark nights and bright days help keep the hormones functioning properly. But using sunglasses diminishes this. Now, years ago, there was a real trend. People started wearing sunglasses. Now, when I was a girl, it's very, very trendy to have sunglasses. And I learned to have sunglasses. And I would go out in the sun and I'd be squinting up. I could not go outside without putting sunglasses on. Now, I didn't realise until later that was a deficiency in my diet. I was very depleted in B vitamins and I needed to bring them up. And once I got my health right and I ate a lot more nutritional foods, all of a sudden I could handle the light. And I don't even own a pair of sunglasses now. I know there may be times if you're in the snow or on the water where you need glasses. Look, I'm not saying that. But for every day, we don't need sunglasses. Our eyes are designed that we don't need it. Yes, if it's bright, put a hat on. But we don't need to have sunglasses on. And not only that, that sun will actually go in through your pupil, hits your retina, which stimulates your pineal gland. And that pineal gland is where we actually have to, and that helps produce your serotonin and your melatonin. Your serotonin is your neurotransmitters, which we need for thinking. Your melatonin is a hormone which we need for sleeping. So we need to have our pineal gland functioning. And so it is stimulated through your eye up there. Now, if you're going to have dark glasses, and if you also have prescription glasses too, also stop it. So you need to expose your light. Now, I'm going to suggest you're not going to be looking up at the sunlight in the middle of the day, obviously. But there is a very small window of time, probably 5 minutes in the morning, when the sun comes up over the horizon. You can look straight into the sunlight then, just for those few minutes. But then it's not long and it's just, you wouldn't want to look in the sun. But just being in the indirect sunlight will help your... But remember, I'm talking about getting 20 to 30 minutes of sun each day. That's what we need. I'm not talking about hours and hours and hours in the sunshine. No. I'm talking about... Yeah, okay, you need 20 to 30 minutes a day, and don't go out in the hottest part of the day and get sunburnt. We're talking about being sensible, right? Don't get sunburnt. But if you have a high-fat diet and you eat all the fats that I was telling you not to eat, I would suggest don't go in the sun. Because you are going to get skin cancer. Because what happens, all of those altered fats are distributed in your skin, in the fat cells in your skin. Now, when you've got the sunlight hitting your skin, light, heat and oxygen will turn them rancid. Well, guess what? You get a skin cancer. So if you're eating the correct fats, you don't have that worry. Plus, you remember me telling you last time about chlorophyll? Add chlorophyll to your diet and you'll be able to handle much more time in the sun. But you still need to be careful, and I'm not saying just if you had to go out in the sunlight and work in the sun all day long, you need to just clothe up. get yourself protected. But there's a little time where you need to expose yourself and get yourself exposed and get a light tan. Okay, next is temperance. Temperance. What is temperance? A lot of people say it's moderation, and that's not quite right. It is self-control. It is abstaining from that which is harmful and using wisely that which is good. For instance, I believe cigarettes and alcohol are harmful. I'm not going to use them moderately. Okay, I'm going to completely abstain. Okay, some things are good, like carrots are good, but do you think I'm going to eat a bucket of carrots? No. Okay, you've got to be moderate in everything. And even if your food looks good and tastes good, you still have to be moderate in what you eat. You can't overeat. And it will be ongoing. All through our lives, we'll have to make choices to choose the things that will build up our health and not break it down. Now, I believe meat, dairy, cheese and eggs causes problem for our body. Also chocolate. Chocolate has another set of problems. And if you're not really sure about what chocolate does, look up the manual. You'll see. And if anybody of you have read that what chocolate does to you, you'll realise that it's not at all good food. And I know it's addictive. I know, I understand, and I'm sure some of you here would be people who have had it and still have a chocolate addiction. But believe me, I got over mine. I used to love chocolate, but now I just don't eat chocolate. I could walk past the supermarket and it was there. No way, I'm not at all interested in buying chocolate. I'm thankful for that too. Ice cream, tea, coffee, alcohol, caffeine, soft drinks, altered fats, refined sugar, processed foods. These are the things we have to leave behind. Excitotoxins. Now, I'm sure there's some people here who think, well, what is an excitotoxin? Did you know that an excitotoxins are what they put in food? They are natural flavourings. Now, I have got a whole talk on excitotoxins because how harmful they are to our body. And you know what? If you go and read most ingredients, lists of most of your canned foods and your dry foods and nearly everything in the supermarket, you will find excitotoxins added. Now, most people know that MSG is an excitotoxin. That's 621. But did you know that there's other excitotoxins, and there's probably 70 of them? And most people have no idea, and they are classified as natural flavourings. And you know what? You read that and you think, oh, this has got natural flavourings in it. You're quite happy with that. For instance, I have looked at bouillon, like soup cubes. I have looked at those. I've looked at those broth, all the ready-made longer life ones. I have not found one of them that has not got excitotoxins in. I'm not sure if there's any around. I'm just saying I have not found one. All of them have excitotoxins in. Aspartame is also an excitotoxin. That's just one. There are sweet excitotoxins and there are savoury excitotoxins. You must realise there's a difference. And as I said, I want to share that whole talk with you because it really is horrendous when you realise what it does, what they do to your body. Artificial flavourings and colourings. High fructose corn syrup. Now, high fructose corn syrup is something most people think, oh, yeah, well, that's fructose. It should be all right. Maybe I'll replace that instead of using sugar. Well, can I tell you, refined sugar is far healthier than high fructose corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup is what they add to an awful lot of soft drinks now. And you know what it does? It gives you a fatty liver. It will turn your liver into an alcoholic's liver very quickly. And you've got a lot of teenagers who are high in their soft drinks. They're walking around and they're quite rotund and quite heavy on the stomach. And guess what? If you examine their liver, they would have the liver of an alcoholic. and they are teenagers because they're drinking so much soft drink. High fructose corn syrup is extremely dangerous for us, and it's because it's cheaper. They put it in this, and it's in a lot of your little bars that you buy in the health food shop, and a lot of the cakes that you buy, they use high fructose corn syrup because it is so cheap. Genetically modified foods, vinegar, that's another thing. Vinegar actually preserves. So if you eat food with vinegar in it, you're going to hinder your digestion. Tobacco and drugs, look, all of these you can see. But look, this is what we replace it with. This is what most people eat. And do you know what? I actually included there a packet of 2-minute noodles. I am sure that there'll be some of you people here, and you know in your family, your kids love 2-minute noodles, and it's hard to get them off it. How do you get them off it? Well, can I tell you that I have done quite a bit of research on 2-minute noodles, and there is nothing in them that I think is healthy. Even the noodle block, that's unhealthy. But that sachet, for instance, it has 621, which is your excitotoxin, which is your MSG. That gives it a taste. That's why they very cleverly, food manufacturers put these tastes into these food to get you to attract to buy their product. That's what it's all about. And it tastes nice, I admit. Then 2-minute noodles also has in it 627 and 631 combined make up 635, and it has 635 in there. Did you know 635 is 15 times more stronger than 621? 15 times stronger. And people are having it, and kids are having it. They are not realising, and not only excitotoxins will cause a weight, you will not be able to lose weight. If you're eating a diet and you think, I'm not eating much. Why? Excitotoxins will make you fat on virtually nothing. So just remember that. So you need to get rid of those 2-minute noodles out of your cupboard. Throw them out. They're not even worth giving away. Okay, some more tips about temperance. Avoid very hot or cold foods. Your stomach has to work too hard. Chew your foods very slowly. Your digestion begins in the mouth. Don't eat between meals. Now, this is one, years ago they told you got to eat every few minutes. Do you know something? If you have your breakfast at lunch, you have your breakfast, lunch, and an evening meal. Now, if you have halfway through it, you have a little snack, guess what? And even if it's a healthy snack, even if it's a few almonds or a banana, maybe it doesn't have to be a cream cake or something. It could be that too. But your digestion will halt and it will have to start again. Okay, then you get to lunch. It has to halt and start again. Mid-afternoon, it has to halt and start again. And likewise, it's a little bit like if you have an automatic washing machine and you throw clothes in it all the time, and then you expect clothes at the end to be clean. No, every time you put something in, you've got to start it again. Now, that's what happened. They've conducted experiments that if you have breakfast and you have eaten all this time, 13 and a half hours later, your breakfast is still in your stomach. Now, that causes fermentation. That causes inflammation in your whole body. Now, if and you know something, your health will suffer because of that inflammation. Now, the ideal is to have, for instance, I'll tell you the ideal, and which I do, Peter and I have done, for 30 plus years, we've just eaten 2 meals a day. I don't even eat an evening meal at all. Now, some people have their 2 meals a day at different times, and that's fine. We have ours at breakfast, then lunch, then nothing more, because after your last meal, it takes 12 hours to digest and for your body to go into really deep cleaning mode in your body, really toxins. So guess what? every day, if you're on this, 2 meals a day, you have a small fast. You're giving your body. So it's just a little fast every day. So you're fasting for 18 hours a day. You know something? It's great. And not only that, it also helps you because then it's not hard. Sometimes we'll even say, oh, well, let's not have lunch today. We'll just fast another day. Do you know fasting is very good for your health? Just realise that. And sometimes you can fast a whole day. You're not going to drop dead if you miss a day of food, I can assure you. And you know, it's going to teach you a lot about yourself because it's going to teach you how dependent you think, I'm hungry. Just do it, you know. We've fasted, we've water fasted. You're fasting now. Good. Well, but when you're fasting, you need to drink a lot of water. I told people about a water fast, and somebody says, does that mean you fast from water? And I thought, I hoped people realised what a water fast is. A water fast is that all you consume is water, all you take in is water. But anyhow, so I would suggest that. Watch what you put on your skin, your body care, your lotions, your soaps, your creams. Be careful, please. Do you know, there is this new trend that you go into people's bathrooms and they've got these little pumps and you go pump there and you wash your hands with this. Do you know something? What are the chemicals in there doing to your health? What happened to old-fashioned soap? We grew up using old-fashioned soap. You come to my place, you're going to go into the toilet, you're going to have cake of soap there to wash your hands with, not these fancy pumps and what. Because, you know, I remember hearing a report on that. One man, he was an endocrinologist, he says, I'm very concerned with what's in these pump sprays. He said that they're going to cause so many problems, especially with your endocrine system and also fertility. That's the other thing. A lot of people, and who's putting it? Plus all these, what we've been exposed to in these last 2 years about having to, these sanitizers, you know. What is in sanitizers? I'm sorry, I find that very hard. I will wash my hands with soap and water, but I'm not going to sanitize them every time somebody says to sanitize them. Temperance resolutions don't always work. And I know there's some people here think, well, I know I've got to get off chocolate. I know I've got to get off coffee, or I know I've got to get off tea, or whatever. I know I've got to cut down. And I'm not saying that you're going to have to give up. I know there's many people here who think, well, I've never heard of this. Have I got to give up meat? And I'm not saying that you're going to just drop it like that, but you need to keep this in the back of your mind to realise that this could be one thing that's causing your problem. True self-control is not making an isolated effort in one area of your life, but it is the divinely implanted principle or character trait which permeates the whole life. It affects all areas of our life. And God will give us the strength to give up our bad habits, but we have to choose to do so. Next, we'll get on to air. Okay, you know, to think clearly, our brain needs lots of oxygen. And people are getting dementia. Why? Because I believe most people have chronic deprivation of the oxygen to their brain. If they really get out and start deep breathing, things will happen. If you know anyone or if yourself have had cancer, did you know that immediately will tell you that you have not got enough oxygen at your cellular level? How do you get oxygen into your cells? Yes, you're right. It's called breathing. It's called breathing. We need to learn to deep breathe properly. Most of us shallow breathe, and we maybe have 15 breaths a minute. 15 breaths a minute. But the idea is to take 6 breaths a minute. 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. That's 6 per minute. Now, that's not hard to do. You could also do 4 seconds in and 6 seconds out. That's another one to do. So you need to do deep breathing. For seriously sick people, aim for 1 hour a day. Now, I was doing one class there, and there was a young man there. He was in it, and he was in his late 20s, and he was super fit. And he said that was doing between 1 and 2 hours of deep breathing every day. He said he could not believe the difference it made to the clarity of his thinking. He said he could really start thinking sharply. And I'm not saying you've got to do all that 1 hour in one block. You know, if you did it every hour, you did 5 minutes every hour, you'd get it done. But if you're seriously sick, you need to start deep breathing. Now, at that class where that man told us that, there was another lady in the class there, and she was probably my age, but she had at the back of her leg a sore, which she knew was turning into an ulcer, because she was a nurse, and she was worried, because this was about 3 months on, and it hadn't healed. And she was concerned for it. So she went back to her room and she started doing deep breathing. And she said, and she came to me probably 5 days later. She said, look at my sore. She said, it's healing right over. And she said, all the difference I'm doing is deep breathing. So remember that. Start deep breathing. And when feeling any sickness or headaches coming on, go outside and take 10 deep breaths, repeating 3 times during the day. And deep breathing massages the liver as well as the bowels, which stimulate peristaltic movement. And the other thing is, sleep with your window open at night. Even in the middle of the winter, put it a crack open. Fold back your covers to allow the bed to air out. And when you get up in the morning, pull back, allow your bed to air out. Don't allow dust to build up behind your bed head. Often those dusts can cause problems with your health. And be careful of any mouldy, smelly substance around your house. Clear it away. And if you have a pipe that leaks in your house, or you've got your house is damp, you are in a serious problem. You have to get that fixed, or your health will just keep going downhill. A damp house is most unhealthy. Just be careful. Okay, next we'll get on to rest. Now, during the night, the body is revived, cells are repaired, muscles are built up, brain tissue is restored, your nerves are recharged, metabolic wastes are released. And your brain does a lot during the night. It actually changes shape. They say it completely, but we need good quality rest to do this. And it actually reorganises information, transforming from short-term to permanent storage area of the brain. Now, there's one other thing too. Being unusually fatigued can often be caused by a fungal overgrowth in the body. Now, have you ever come across people, and maybe it's been yourself, you will be just so tired you can't stay awake. That is because you've got a fungal overgrowth in your body. Now, I've got another talk on fungal overgrowth in your body, how to cope with that one. Because it's a real problem. And people, they'll eat a meal, and within minutes they will feel like they want to just sleep, and they just can't stay awake. It is just like a fatigue that just overpowers you, and you can't do anything. And what's causing it is being fed by the food you're eating. And predominantly, doesn't have to be unhealthy food. It can be even the sugars that you're eating in your fruit. It can be normal fruit.
Yeah, especially if it's bruised.
Yes, you need to be careful of it. Like, for instance, grapes, very high in sugar. All of those things, very high. Strawberries, very high in sugar, and they've often got fungal mould on them too, which you don't realise. But grapes often do too. So you need to be careful of these foods. But that's just a couple. But that's another whole subject. But you need to have remember I told you got the basis of the 8 laws of health. How to establish good sleep habits. Well, the average person needs 8 to 9 hours of sleep daily for proper immune function, for tissue repair and nervous system and hormone balance. 8 to 9 hours sleep. Have a set bedtime and rising time as well as for eating, exercise, study and work. I love going to bed early. I am an early to bed, early to rise. I love getting up early. Peter and I are up at like 4:30 in the morning. But you know something, that's the time we do our Bible study and I just love it. I've spent 2 hours, good 2 hours just by myself, and I've done that for how many years? 30 plus years. And I tell you, you'll start to learn a lot over the time when you do that. But I love going to bed early, and like my family, but Peter tells me I just get that glazed look over my eyes and he said, "Oh, you're ready for bed, aren't you?" And our kids laugh at us. Says, "I don't ring up mum and dad after 7:30 at night." You're liable to find them there going to bed. But something, quite a few of our kids do go to bed too. Yeah, so they're all early to bedders too. Maybe I taught them that growing up because we like it. So we need set times in your eating as well. Remember I said your digestive juices get ready for your food to come in at certain times. Another thing too, I was taught years ago when people chew gum, that gives you your body. Your body is being telling your body, is being told that there's food coming and then no food comes. So what does it do? It just wastes all that digestive juice and depletes your digestive juices. And there's so many people have problems with digestion. We need to look at every single way that we can help them. So how to establish good sleep habits? Go to bed early. Sleeping the hours before midnight are twice as beneficial to us as the hours after midnight. Staying up late unbalances our body clock. But eating late, sugary foods, lack of exercise, smoking, exposures to EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies. Now, people are so paranoid about the mobile phone tower out there, but they don't realise that there's also electromagnetic frequencies all around them. Obviously with your mobile phone and your computers, but it's also lights. I've got a whole talk on electromagnetic frequencies and how harmful they are. It is so interesting because I've done a lot of research in it. And they are just so harmful to us. But it's not just that. For instance, I've got a little meter at home that I can walk around and I say, what appliances are emitting electromagnetic frequencies? It stunned me. I've got a Thermomix at home. It stunned me. When I went close to it, I thought, wow, it just has so much EMFs. So what you do, when you're finished, I still use it, but when you're finished using it, switch it off at your power point. All of your appliances, learn to switch off your appliances at the power point. It stops giving you electromagnetic frequencies. Now, sometimes you've got to be careful because sometimes it's not always, because you can even have an extension cord can emit electromagnetic frequencies. So there's a lot of different ways. So don't just think it's the mobile phone and your mobile phone towers that you've got to think about. There's a lot of things that you need to be aware of with electromagnetic frequencies. And you can get quite sick with it. But can I tell you, those people who are sick with electromagnetic frequencies, the first thing you need to look at is your dehydration, because they say that that is linked, dehydration, and you're extra sensitive to electromagnetic radiation. The use of caffeine as well as certain drugs can cause sleep problems. Rest for the stomach. Now I'm going to talk that. I talked to you a moment back about don't eat between meals. Your body likes to have have 5 to 6. See, your body, you eat a breakfast in the morning, your body needs 5 to 6 hours, probably 4 to 5 hours before your stomach is emptied. Then it needs a window of at least about an hour for your digestive juices to replenish and be ready for your next meal. And it works fine if you don't eat between meals, but you just drink. Your stomach needs time to replenish the gastric juices. Now, just as our stomach needs a rest, I believe we also need a weekly rest. Now, our body needs a daily rest. We also need a weekly rest. Our body has a daily body clock, which is called a circadian rhythm. You heard of that? Now, we also have a weekly body clock called a circaseptan rhythm, and we have 7-day cycles, 28-day cycles, and many more that depend on lifestyle and regularity for proper functioning. For instance, medical research connects rhythms with heart rates, suicides, natural hormones in breast milk. After your surgery, your swellings increase on the 7th and 14th day. Rejection of transplanted organs will also happen on that 7th or the 14th or the 21st. It's the multiple of 7. We have a weekly cycle built into us. Human and animal responses to treatment of cancer for fibrinogen, a blood clotting compound, has a 7-day rhythm. So this is built into us. And I believe we were created to have a weekly cycle. It is a feature of our physiology. And God gave it to Adam and Eve right back in the Garden of Eden. He called it the 7th day, and he blessed it and sanctified it. That's right back in the Garden of Eden. Then later on, he gave it again when he gave the 10 Commandments. He reiterated it and he made sure he said, remember to keep the Sabbath day holy. He said, take that one day off, rest. Now, I grew up going to church. My parents took all of us family, we all went to church on Sundays when we were kids. And I didn't realise it at that time. But then later on, when I was in my 20s, all of a sudden I found out, oh, hello, I didn't realise that the Sabbath was Saturday. And it has never been changed since then, all through the Bible. There's nowhere ever in any part of the Bible it says it's been changed to Sunday. So what do? I keep the Sabbath, the 7th-day Sabbath, holy, and I go to church, I spend time, I just de-stress. It is wonderful. I love it. It's built into us to have that day of rest every week. And God promises that he will revive our bodies and minds and give us true peace. Now, during the French Revolution, a law was passed to change the weekly cycle from 7 to 10 days. The country publicly rejected God. Did you know that the animals dropped dead? Anarchy was rife. 3.5 years later, the government had to rescind that law because France was in absolute chaos. See, we are created to have a 7-day cycle. No man can just change it to a 10-day cycle. As a matter of fact, even before the Second World War, the Germans actually changed their cycle to a 6-day cycle. But when the war came on, they had to change it back because the countries all around them, they changed it. So you can see we've had history of this happening in our world, and it just doesn't work. We are created to have a 7-day cycle. Now, why 7 days? I don't know. I'm just being obedient. I'm not saying why. Now, there's another one is true rest is relaxation. Is where you go out and it's not sitting in front of a television. It's relaxing. Maybe it's gardening, spend time in nature, walking, sharing time with loved ones and friends, and leaving your worries and cares behind. Now, the last law of health is trusting God. Now, this is the one that deals with our thinking. What do we think? Our thoughts produce chemicals that are released in our bodies. And science now knows that 89% of disease comes from our thought life. Now, it's very interesting because there's a book at home I've got called Sanctification Begins with the Heart by a South African doctor who goes in it. And she says that soon they believe 95%, they'll soon find out that 95% of all disease is caused through our thought life. Now, I have a book somewhere on my computer, a PDF file. I printed it out years ago and I gave it to someone because I thought I said, oh, we'd like that. And I said, yeah, that's fine. I've got it at home. Now, I can't find it on my computer. It's somewhere there. If you know what it's like trying to find a file on a computer, you don't know what it's called. It's all right if you know what it's called, but I don't know what it's called. So I can't find it. But it gives, and it's pages and pages long, but it gives every disease and the corresponding wrong thought. And it is absolutely amazing what happens. It even goes as far as if you've got hemorrhoids, what's caused your hemorrhoids. It goes as far if you've got liver problem, what causes your liver problem. It goes through, and I found it fascinating, but I can't find it. And I have searched and searched and searched. And hey? Yeah, well, yes. Okay, so this is what it is. Science now comes, and we know that 89%. So our thought life is causing us to be sick. We must realise that. We have to have a good attitude. Now, how do we get a good attitude? Health depends on having a good attitude. Worry, anxiety, anger, hostility, grief, remorse, complaining, negativism, fear and mental stress depend on the immune system. Those who direct their anxiety and tension inward are more susceptible to an early death. But having a cheery attitude is vital to good health. Yet we need not wait to be a good mood to hit us. Psychological research suggests that deciding to have a cheerful countenance can also create a merry heart and generates amazing changes in the brain itself. Deliberate decisions to smile actually generate the same positive brain activity in the frontal cortex as a spontaneously happy smile. So you don't even have to really be happy. You've just got to start smiling and let yourself realise, oh, I'm going to be happier. I'm choosing to be happy. I'm going to smile. You know, it works.
If you're really feeling down and you actually start singing a hymn,
you're absolutely right, and I'll repeat that. If you're feeling down and you start singing, and the lady said especially singing a hymn, it changes you. You cheer up. It's so much better. You know what it's like to be around somebody who is very negative and down? It depresses you. You just like to be around people who are positive and happy. That uplifts you. It's much happier to be there. So we've just got to choose to be happy. And this is what this is a Bible verse. A merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit dries the bones. Now that means you've just got to choose to be happy inside of you because it actually impacts your health. It will dry your bones. Well, our bones are where our immune system is. So it will break down our health. So we have to have the right attitude. Right. Okay, now I love this picture. Don't you feel like a black sheep of the family? Yes. Okay, learning to trust in God. That's why I put it there, because I just love that one. Learning to trust in God completely in all situations brings a peace of mind that will keep us calm, promote health and prolong life. A contented mind is a cheerful spirit. A cheerful spirit is health to the body and strength to the soul. But you know, there's many people out there. They are in despair, they are empty, they have all stressed out. You've got some people, they don't know what to do. They've got problems. They are just so stressed out. You've got those people who they don't know what they're searching for. And I can remember this. I was a young woman in my 20s. I was looking for something. I wasn't happy. I was looking for something and I was searching. I didn't even know what I was looking for at that time. And I knew I was searching for something. And you know, some people, they go through their life. They think that a marriage partner will make them happy. And they go from one marriage to the other, to another, to another, to another. And that's never going to make you happy. True happiness comes from within. God's given you, and it's within. True happiness. A contented, and that some people will just buy things. They're just addicted to buying, you know, whether it is little things or big things. They would just keep on buying because fills that void. But it doesn't really. Trust in God, faith and prayer all provide a significant boost to mental as well as physical health. If stricken down with a serious illness, they positively influence your chance of recovery. Develop an attitude of gratitude. Now, this is critical. We need to be very thankful. Become benevolent. Start giving of your time, your energy, not just your money too, but make time for people. But remember, we can't heal without God. That's where true healing is. Learn to think of others, help someone in need. Now that's so rewarding when you can help somebody who needs your help. Doing good to others will bring health and healing. Do you know, this is what Psalm 58 says. It's a psalm that deals with how if you've got health problems, it says you have to start, your health will return speedily. God says your health will return speedily if you start helping people out there. I love that psalm. As a matter of fact, I love it. I wrote some music to it and I'm waiting for some people to sing it for me. And I'm going to find some singers sooner or later that will contact me and they'll say, I'll sing it for you.
Have you written the music to it?
Yes, I've written the music to it. Yes.
Proverbs, it's in 15, also has in the Proverbs chapter 15 and 13, whereas it says a happy heart makes the face cheerful, but a heartache crushes the spirit.
Yeah, okay, she said a happy heart makes a person cheerful, yeah. But doing good to others will bring health and healing. Doing good is an excellent remedy for disease. Now, I found this many years ago this saying. This was written on the wall of a youth camp. And I wrote it down and I've never forgotten. It says there's a God-shaped vacuum in the heart of every man which cannot be filled by any created thing but only through Jesus Christ. And I thought of that and I thought, yeah, there's an emptiness, and it's true. God has placed an emptiness in every heart that can only be filled by Him. Okay, many people out there in the world, they're going through worry, they're going through sickness, they're going through turmoil, and they're going through depression. Heaps of people are problem. So how do they cope? How do we help them cope? Well, God's book tells us, learning of Him is the highway to health. And this is what it's true. I have found that for myself, and I just want to share this because this is I believe is the answer so many people are searching for. But remember, God is the healer. He is the master physician. But you have to ask Him in. He won't come in uninvited. You have to actually open the door and say, well, God, you're going to have to come in and help me. I can't do this alone. So there you are. We have just, and I think we've covered it, we have just come to the end of our 8 laws of health. So these are laws. And if you think that, oh, well, I'm not going to do one of them, that's all right, but you will pay the price. There is a law called the law of gravity. If you decide, I don't agree with the law of gravity, it's not for me, well, does it make any difference? You're still going to have to abide by the law of gravity in your life because if you decide to jump off a tall building, you'll soon find out if the law of gravity is real or not. laws of health. These are simple but profound. I once sat in a class with this doctor who was a very, very brainy doctor, and he actually studied at Harvard. And he was studying under some of the most highest people out. And he had a class, and I spent a week in his class. And he said that he went to the top men at Harvard University in England. Oxford. Harvard is in America. Oxford. He was studying under Oxford in England. And he went there and he said, he told them about the 8 laws of health. And they looked at him and they said, we're professors. You're trying to tell us kindergarten stuff. You know, that's just not what we're at. But you know something? This is where the health is, the foundations of your health. If you start putting those into practice, your health will start returning. Now, remember all of these things I'm talking about. I've written a lot up in past newsletters. There's still some down there. If you want to grab some spare ones, I'm trying to get rid of them. And every time we come in, I've still got a bundle that I take home. So if you want to give some away to friends, just grab some and take them. And all of these articles are written up. I think I'm up to number 85, I think, now. And I used to put out 4 a year up until a year or so ago. And so that's 20 plus years that I've been doing these newsletters, and I've covered a lot of topics. So you need to go up there. So sunlight is one of them, and good intestinal health and all those sort of things. And here is my email, my website. Facebook site is Back to Eden with Kay. There's no spaces between it now. It's been changed. It's just Back to Eden with Kay. And I've got a YouTube of Back to Eden with Kay. So now what I'm going to do something a little bit different with you now is because somebody approached me and they said, okay, yes, what do I do with my dried beans? I've told you that I want you to start eating plant-based protein. Now, by the way, too, I have a belief, this is my belief system, that there's going to be a food problem coming up in the world very soon, and you will not be able to buy meats, even if you wanted to. These beans are going to be an excellent source of nutrition for you. And not only that, they're going to be economical and they're going to be cheap, and you'll be able to keep them. They keep for years. Now, I've got a packet of beans here. These are just called Great Northern beans. That's 1 kilogram of them. I've got another kilogram of black-eyed beans. But you can get all sorts of beans. Now, I've got a few slides here. I want to teach you, I'm not going to demonstrate here, but I'm just going to walk you through it with some slides on how to cook beans. Okay. Now, can you see how nice they look? They taste nice too. Now, you can get all sorts of beans. There's many, many, many varieties of beans out there. You've got kidney beans, you've got borlotti beans, you've got chickpeas, you've got lima beans, you've got pinto beans and whatever beans. I think I said black-eyed beans or black beans, all different beans. Now, remember I told you when you're eating foods to get them all your different varieties because you're getting different nutrition in them. Now, so you can just buy different beans, and I sort of tend to buy a bean. If I know that I'm making chickpeas, I can make them up a certain way. But you have all these different beans. Now, you've got lentils too. Beans generally need to be soaked. I tend not to worry about soaking my lentils overnight. I just have them, for instance, my brown and green lentils I will cook quicker. They can take from 3/4 of an hour to hour to cook. But my red lentils are a go-to when you think, oh, I've forgotten to cook something. Quickly, what do I cook in a hurry? They're 20 minutes to cook. They are so quick. So that's an ideal for you. And so I just cook them. I would cook red lentils. I would just cook with a bit of onion. I always put salt in it. If you cook your legumes without salt, I tell you what, hardly anyone will eat them. I can tell you that. Okay, they taste terrible without salt. And I know some people are into salt and they don't want to salt. But can I tell you personally, nearly every person that I've heard who's gone without salt in their diet, down the track the digestion packs up. We need a little bit of salt. Not a lot, but a little bit of salt. Can you hold your question till later, till you've got a microphone? Okay, so you've got black one, green ones, red ones, so you can use them. Now, this is how these sort of hard old dry beans are cooked and prepared. Now, I said soak 2 cups. You can soak 10 cups if you want to. You don't have to just keep it to 2 cups. Now, in here, there would probably be about 5 or 6 cups in there, I'd say. Now, often I will soak the whole lot at once. And then I will cook the whole lot up, and then my cooked ones I will freeze. So then I've got frozen beans ready to cook and add to a very quick meal, and they're already cooked. Because if you have to do this, it's a process. So if you're going to cook 1 day a week, but soak your beans, dry beans, for 5 to 6 hours or overnight. You've got to remember to do that first. There is a fast way you can do it. I've done it fast ways quite often because you forget. You bring the unsoaked bean to a boil, and you boil it for about 2 minutes and you let it sit for about 2 hours. Now that does speed it up quite considerably, but it's not as good as this way. I don't believe anyhow. You plump them up nice. They're usually about double in size when you soak them properly. Drain off your water and discard it, because that's got stuff that's soaked out of the beans. You don't want that. Don't think I'll keep nutrition. There's no nutrition in there that you need to keep. You're actually throwing off things that are in the bean that will ward off pests and chemicals if it was going to be sowed in the ground. Place your soaked beans in fresh water and bring to a boil. Now, this is where I'm just going to stop for a minute. Now, what about all of those people who get flatulence or wind from beans? Now, this is what you do. Boil those for 5 minutes, then discard the water. Add fresh water and bring to boil again. This step can be repeated 2 to 4 times. Now, I can remember I was cooking for a lady. I went down to Melbourne and we were cooking for a lady who was hosting some visitors, and she was working, so she asked me to come in and do a cooking for her, and I went down there, and she told me she had a very, very touchy digestion and she couldn't handle beans and legumes. And I thought, well, I'll cook it like this. And I did. I changed my water 4 times, and the 5th time I cooked them. And she was fine. She could handle that. So just realise and sometimes if you've never tried beans before and you try them first and you think, wow, I've got so much wind, you can't believe it. That's the reason. You've got to soak them and you've got to get used to it. And that's how you get rid of it. There may be an odd person who still has wind, and I'm sorry, that's the best I can do. Okay, but the last time, the time that you're going to keep the water, add your salt, seasonings, your liquid, whatever you're going to put. Liquid I'll tell you about in a minute. Add vegetables and cook until done. If you have vegetables, you don't have to have them in. But this is when you put your salt in. Now, some people say, wait until the last to put your salt in. Well, I've experimented. They said, it makes the beans much more tender. Well, I've experimented. I put it in at the beginning, and at the end, I can't taste the difference. And not only that, if I wait to the end, I'll often forget. So I put it in at the beginning so I know it's there. And what happens is that salt water cooks through the beans. If you add it at the end, you don't have that salt water cooking through the beans. It's just water. So I actually put it in at the beginning, and I don't worry about all this. Okay, now this is a basic crock pot recipe. Place your soaked beans in your crock pot. and you add a seasoning. Now, this is in my recipe book. There's a whole section, there's a whole page on how to cook beans in there. And this is just from that. You add 1 to 2 chopped onions, 1/2 to 1 capsicum chopped, a 1/2 a celery, crushed clove of garlic, and they can be sautéed first. You can do them that way if you want to sauté them first, but there's been times I can't be bothered sautéing, I just throw them in, and that's fine too. These can add Celtic sea salt, herbs, etc., whatever you want to taste in there. Now, the liquid you could use in combination with any sauce. First, you add your sauce to the pot. Now, the sauces I'm talking about are the sauces which I had in my book. Whether you want to put a cashew sauce in it or a creamy cashew sauce in, you could put a satay sauce in it, you could put a curry sauce in it, you could put a tomato sauce in it. There's a number of sauces in there that you can do. Or you could use water. Or you could use a combination of water and tomato puree, or any liquid you use. The amount of water will vary on the variety of beans, just how many beans you have added. Just remember to cover the beans by about 2 centimetres of water. You can add extra vegetables you want, whether you put peas, carrots, corn, zucchini, potatoes, whatever. You could add rice if you wanted. I actually have some dehydrated vegetable, which I've dehydrated myself, and I put it in there. If I do that, I've got to add a little bit of extra water to realise, because that's going to take a bit of water. And if I add rice, I've actually have to consider that. Tell you, I've got one of these little mini slow cookers, which is just ideal for 2 people. And I put in, for instance, I'm not putting in beans, I'm putting in lentils, my brown lentils. I put in 2 1/3 cups scoops, 2 1/3 cups, then 1/3 of a cup of rice. I'll put in a good teaspoon of salt. I'll maybe throw a few dried tomato pieces in, because I've got my own dehydrated tomato. Sometimes I put vegetables in it. I don't always do that. It depends. And I put 3 cups of water, and I let that sit, and that's generally ideal. And I put that here's the instructions here. Turn high and leave 3 to 4 hours. How long you leave it will depend and vary on your crock pot or your slow cooker. And whether you put warm water or cold water or hot water in at the beginning, that all takes into account. Sometimes you will have a legume that is much harder, you'll take longer. But generally they're about that amount of times. And when they're cooked, they can be thickened with corn flour if required. But remember, legumes are very bland when they're cooked without salt. Now, suggested combinations: kidney beans with chili con carne sauce, chickpeas with tomato sauce or creamy cashew sauce, navy haricot lima beans with asparagus sauce. Oh, they're very nice. I love lima beans with asparagus sauce. That is a very nice one. And lima beans are very alkaline bean too. They are not at all an acid bean. Now, I'm going to leave that up there. There's a recipe for you. Maybe you want to take a photo of. I'll just leave that on the screen for a while. But now what I'm going to do is ask you, we'll have the microphone now, please. Fiona, could you do the microphone, please? Thanks. And what we'll do is I want you to ask a question, and I also want you to tell me if you've had any natural remedies that you've had success with, and you can talk to me about that. Rebecca, I'd like to hear about your leg too, how you do that, how that healed with the natural remedies. Okay, anyone? Here we have someone.
Thank you. Hello. There was a question. People have been watching your videos online, and one of the questions was, is there a herbal tea for like endemic inflammation or internal inflammation generally?
Yes and no. I mean, look, I think one of the best herbal teas to get onto is red clover. That will cleanse your blood out. I think that that's a pretty standard one. And that's a simple one. You'll find that anywhere. That's a very good one to get through. Yes?
Okay, I just wanted to let everyone know that I've actually used the cayenne pepper poultice for tight muscles like quite a bit, and it's amazing. Like, yeah, really, 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 really works.
Yes. Rebecca? Now, you may not remember Rebecca. She came in here, was it the first or the second week, with her leg and a crutch. You were,
Yes, I was running and I ran into a ditch.
up to your, closer to your mouth.
I was running and I ran into a ditch on my right foot and went over onto the side and sprained a ligament, and the bone was injured.
And it was quite a nasty injury, wasn't it?
I got up to walk and then I fainted, and it was up at Brown's Lagoon in South Albury. Then I had to lie down on the ground. A young woman went past with a big dog and didn't know what to do. She sort of kept walking. Because I had our little schnauzer, and I guess her dog was a bit dangerous near, the little one. But anyway, I got up again to walk and fell down and fainted. And I had to pray for God to help me. And then I sat down, walking to the end of Olive Street there just to get out of the park. And someone said, "Are you all right?" And then they gave me a lift home because it was just up the road. So I did have an X-ray on my foot, and then that was on Thursday. Then I came here on the Sunday, and you were talking about the potato poultices. Then I went home and did that, put that on my foot, and changed it 2 or 3 times during the day. All the swelling went down, and the bruising was amazing, the way it all just started fading over a few days of the potato poultice.
Yeah.
And I was also taking the comfrey tea, and I was doing the cayenne pepper and the comfrey powder in water, lemon juice, and drinking that.
Yes.
And it was a very quick recovery. It was 3 weeks.
Yes.
And then I was walking
Yes,
fairly
I know,
quickly.
because I was astounded when you came back and you were off your crutches the next
Yeah.
week.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then I'm back running and walking swiftly.
Yes.
So
Okay, thank you,
it's very
Rebecca.
good.
Okay, over here.
I forgot the one that I was going to ask you when you told me to hold. But now, is there any oil that you can use for cooking? Because you say once it's heated, it turns toxic.
Probably the only one that I would use for cooking is coconut oil.
Okay.
It has a much higher smoke point. I had a discussion with some other woman who said to me, olive oil is all right to do your cooking in. So what I did is I did an experiment. I actually sautéed up my food and I put a cooking thermometer in there and I watched what temperature it went to, and it went way, way, way over the smoke point for olive oil. Because the moment you heat it, remember, it changes its molecular shape and it has problems. But coconut oil is a much safer oil to cook in. But I generally don't cook in a lot of oil anyhow. I do reserve that for a few little recipes I have, which I have. But I tend to actually, look, if you saute together, and sometimes I do mushrooms with it too. I don't use that many mushrooms, but sometimes I do. But if you saute them together, you can actually saute them and they make their own juice. And, you don't need to add oil. Yeah.
Oh, got another one.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you had the photo of Jesus with the black lamb, black
Yes.
sheep. I went to a church service and a guy was visiting from South Africa, and they had Jesus with a white sheep.
Right. Yes.
Kay, I'm wondering if savoury yeast flakes is an excitotoxin.
Yes, it is. Savoury yeast flakes are an excitotoxin. There are a scale of savoury yeast. There is a scale of savoury yeast flakes which, I'll say that again. There is a scale of excitotoxins which are very harmful and some that haven't got as much in it. I don't think they have as much in it, but yes, it is. Savoury yeast flakes are an excitotoxin. And so there are so many things that we are having and we don't realise that they are a problem in our diets. So many things.
Kay, what is the problem with vinegar?
Vinegar hinders digestion. Okay, you put something with vinegar in, it will keep in your fridge for how long? So if you've got that in your body, you will hinder digestion. So I'm talking about salad dressings, and do you know what? So often you can replace your vinegar in salad dressings with lemon.
What about apple cider vinegar?
Apple cider vinegar is something which I do use occasionally. It is not the same as normal white vinegar. Yeah, I don't use much of it, but I have it at times. But for my salad dressings, I will just use lemon. Now, what I've done with lemon is when it's in season, I actually freeze it in ice cube trays. Then I let it freeze, then twist it out and just store it in plastic bags in the deep freezer. So I've got any amount of lemon there, so I don't get caught out when the lemons are very expensive. I just go to my deep freeze and I just get the lemon out. So if I've got a recipe that says half a cup of lemon, I've got half a cup of lemon juice in the freezer. I'm always thinking ahead, thinking, what can I do? What can I do? And this is the way I prepare all my food. It's like thinking ahead constantly. Actually, while I'm thinking of it too, I might, before we get our next question, I might just add, I had one gentleman came to me and he told me and he showed me these. This was one of those growths that he had on his back, and he said he did a poultice of crushed garlic, and look at it. Just put it in between crisscross Band-Aids, he said. Just crushed his garlic, put crisscross, and there's the last one. So can you see how simple a thing can be? You've got this thing and you think, how do I get rid of that? How do I get rid of that? Actually, I'll go back to that recipe for you. I don't know if you've got the recipe. Any other questions? Well, that's good. Oh, here's one.
Just a curiosity question. With the cough mixture with the honey and onion, how long does that keep for?
Look, it keeps for months in the fridge. I wouldn't keep it too much longer, from maybe a couple of months. That's it. Yeah.
And with your pumpkin seeds, what are the best pumpkin seeds to use?
I just use pepitas, just the green pepitas. I tell you where I get my pumpkin seeds from. There's a place down near Ovens, in between Myrtleford and Bright, that sells organic pumpkin seeds. I think they are sold at Border Just Foods. Okay, the health food shop in Wodonga has the organic ones. They are organic. Now, most pumpkin seeds that you would buy even the organic ones come from China. I have a problem with that. So when I found that these are grown in Australia and they're organic and they are the ones who supply all over Australia. They're the only pumpkin seed growers in Australia, as far as I understand.
Can you not use the seeds that you get out of your pumpkin that you eat?
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
Yes, you could. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can use your pumpkin seeds out of your pumpkins. That's fine. But can I tell you, Pepita's pumpkin seeds are very nice. Very, and as I said in there, they're very rich in zinc. Now, yes, and magnesium, but your zinc is what your men need for their prostate. And you'll find if you've got a man who is like maybe 40 or so, you give him all the time pumpkin seeds right through, he'll sail through that time when the men get their prostate problems, because you've already given him the prostate food. You know, your body, it takes a while. It's like when you are dehydrated. I didn't mention this, but if you are dehydrated from not drinking enough water, did you know it takes you probably 6 months to rehydrate your body properly? It takes a long time. It's not just something, and it takes a while for all that nutrition to strengthen your body and to build up.
I remember the question. It wasn't a question, it was a statement. I was working as a Jillaroo up in northern New South Wales, and I came and it looked like I had a prickly heat, but it wasn't prickly heat. Got into the flying doctor, and it was lack of salt.
Yes.
I was no salt, and I had to take those little sachets in water 3 times a day.
Yeah. Yeah, we need salt. We need a small amount of salt in our diet. So once I heard that, I thought, oh, thank you, because it does make food taste nice. But if you're going to use it, use Himalayan or Celtic sea salt. Don't use your table salt. Don't use that cheap stuff from the supermarket. Only time I buy that is when I put it in a recipe for weed killer. It's a recipe for weed killer, has salt and vinegar in it, doesn't it? Will that kill ivy? Should. Okay, there's a recipe. It's and water. Okay, that's your recipe for weed killer. It does kill it. It does grow back again, but it does kill it.
It will only kill the foliage, it doesn't go down.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough, but it's good enough for me. I just don't want to use that Roundup. Roundup has a problem. That's another thing with your genetically modified foods and your Roundup. I also have a talk on Roundup, how harmful that is for you. Boiling water kills weeds too. Yes, you're right there. Okay, any other questions? Oh, that's good. Yes.
Kay, I drink a lot of water, but I still feel I'm thirsty at times.
Yeah.
And I'm really trying hard to increase my potassium.
Yes.
Do you know anything about that? With green leafy vegetables and
Yes,
greenies.
that helps. Helps heaps. I actually found that too. I couldn't believe, why am I so thirsty? And I found out that, and I didn't realise it then, but I had a gluten intolerance. And I don't know if you've been checked for a gluten intolerance, or just even if you haven't been checked, just don't try it yourself. You don't need to be checked with it, but just experiment and say, well, maybe it's gluten. And once I did that, I found out that I did not have, because I would be drinking and drinking and drinking, and I drank so much, and I thought, oh, why am I drinking so much? And often it can be food allergy, and not just gluten, also food allergies. You might be allergic to something else too.
Well, sometimes it can be that you need a little bit of Celtic salt.
Yes.
Or so many glasses.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, you're right there. You just add a little bit of Celtic sea salt to it. Now, I've actually done a research on the difference between Celtic sea salt and Himalayan salt. Do you know, they're very much of a muchness. I think, to me, as I went through it, the Celtic sea salt may be a touch healthier, but both of them are very close.
I think to alternate between them is a good thing.
Yeah, okay, because they do have different nutrition in it. Yeah, look, that's a fine one too, but it's harder to come across, you know. It's like not as much. That's the Murray River one, which is fine. I've never bought that. I've only ever had that. I don't ever have that, yeah, so. Yes?
If you get tested for celiac disease, for gluten, it misses it 70% of the time.
Okay.
Your test will not register.
Okay, so I'll just repeat that. If you get tested for gluten, it misses the result 70% of the time. 70% of the time. So often it comes back as, oh, you're all right, you're not allergic to gluten. And usually it runs in family. Okay, usually if your mother or your father is, and I didn't realise it. First of all, I'd found out that my daughter was, my 2 granddaughters were, another 2 grandchildren were, my sister was, my brother was. My sister said to me, "You're gluten intolerant." And I thought, "No, I don't want to be gluten intolerant. I like my bread. I don't want it. I'll just keep eating." But then all of a sudden I realised, no, I need to change it and stop it. And that's when, and not only that, I also found it actually beclouded my brain. I definitely have a clearer brain now than I had years ago when I was eating gluten. I know that. It's taken a while, but I definitely can think clearer and I'm not as foggy in the brain. I really had a foggy brain when I was eating gluten. So that can be a real... I've got a whole... I just need a bit of water. Yep, just talking too much. I've got a whole talk on gluten. Yep.
Oh, just the treatment for arthritis, please.
Treatment for arthritis. Well, you heard what I said with acid foods. Cut out all your acid foods. And you really need to look at it. I would cut out... See, your animal protein is what's causing your acid foods. Your sugars are causing your acid foods. Your refined white flours, your refined white rice. There's a lot of foods that are acid. So I'd be careful with those. I run out of water when I'm talking too much. Practically, for poultices, I would do cayenne poultices. But you've got to get to the root of it. Once you find, and I've heard a lot of people, because I actually started, when I was a young woman, before I started on my health journey, I could feel my knuckles were starting to thicken up. I didn't have much flexibility in my hands. And, it worried me. And I thought, oh, well, here I am so young. I was in my 20s. But I'm fine now. And as I said, I'm 73 now. So, and I'm still quite flexible. I can still...
Did you say that gluten with an acid body as well with arthritis?
Yeah, that's true. Arthritis can also be... It can have a root cause of a gluten intolerance. Can I tell you, that's another talk I've got, is gluten intolerance. Did you know that there is not one person on the planet today that can digest the wheat that has now been changed? It's hybridized wheat. Okay? And no one can digest it. Some people handle it better, yes, and they don't think they've got a problem, but there is no one, because what's happened to our wheat, probably in the past 70 years, it has been changed. It's hybridized. It's actually not genetically modified, it's hybridized. It's a little bit different processed, but yet it is still as harmful for us, and because of that, nobody can handle it.
And that's all the pasta.
Yeah, you're right.
The original pasta in Italy that they used to grow from that wheat, we would be able to have.
Yep.
Not anymore.
Yep. And so a lot of people, they can go back to the old ones, but it really doesn't work. Once you've got antibodies to wheat, you can never go back. Never.
Mine's not a question, it's a statement.
Yep.
Growing up, I was always sick, diarrhoea, pains in the stomach, etc., etc. When I got older, I started researching. I got tested for celiac disease and it was negative. And I started removing things. People said I was stupid, I shouldn't do that. But I started removing things, taking it out of my diet, and then I'd put it back in and I'd notice the change in me. Over the years, I was a massage therapist and my hands became like that. I couldn't massage anymore, so I had to quit that job. And my RA levels were sky high, so I had to remove legumes because I'm anaphylactic to them. So I removed legumes, I moved any type of wheat and gluten. I even stopped eating rice because that has gluten in it, and that upset the stomach. And the another thing that I suffered with was eczema. When I removed all of the gluten and all of those foods, the eczema went, the body aches and pains have eased, and my RA levels are back to like within the proper normal levels. So, yeah, I do eat meat and I do drink some coffee. I drink rooibos tea, or whatever you call it, rooibos tea. Unfortunately, but I'm going to try cooking the lentils this way, because maybe it's the length
Yep.
that I had, you know, because if you bought stuff in a can, I'd say they're not cooked as good
Yep.
as if you can cook at home.
Yes.
But that's me.
Yep.
And if
Thank
and gluten causes brain fog, and I seem to think clear. If I know if I've had gluten
Yep.
when I'm out sometimes, and I'll have something that's they say is gluten free and it's not.
You have to treat a gluten.
Toxin.
Yes, that's right. As a toxin, you have to treat it like an allergy, like a peanut allergy. You can't even have a tiny bit of it. And do you know what the funniest part about it is? You can actually find gluten in so many things. You can find it in lollies. You can find it in even shampoos. And some people are so sensitive that they can't even use shampoo with gluten in it. But I can remember my daughter she said, you can't even find, I think she said the only lolly you could have was a minty or something like that. Don't take it for that. I can't remember. I think that's what it was. She said all of the other lollies have got gluten in.
You have to read your labels.
I'm an avid label reader, but quite frankly, I really don't shop a lot in the supermarket anymore. I do go for Whole Foods all the time. I'm just like make my own. Yeah, even my tomato puree and all that, I make my own. Although, look, there's an odd time I'll use a can of something, you know, or a can of beans or something like that, can of legumes. Look, the odd time, but most of that. But they're quite healthy, you know, there's not much in those. They're just like water and salt. Might not have the proper salt in, but, you know, I can just live with that one. Okay, any more questions before we wind it up? Well, thank you. And we will meet again here, and you're welcome to come. Don't think you have to have a special invitation to come. You're all welcome to come. You can bring friends along with you. The first Sunday in May. And I will talk to you about the China study.